Just want to welcome everyone to American Family Insurance DreamBank, where we believe in the transformative power of dreams. I'm Maddie, and I'm so excited to have you with us today. Here at American Family Insurance, we believe the communities are stronger and the future is brighter when people are actively pursuing their dreams. That's why we created DreamBank, an inspirational community destination and digital experience dedicated to dreamers everywhere. From our daily event series to immersive signature programs, there's something for every dreamer. Our always free offerings are designed to help you celebrate your dream journey, overcome obstacles, and stay motivated. Now, I'd like to introduce you to today's speaker. Lisa Even has worked with hundreds of organizations across the country and built a reputation for transforming leadership from the inside out. She's a keynote speaker, team culture enthusiast, and the best-selling author of Joy is My Job, which we will be talking all about joy today. Without further ado, I will just pass it off to you, Lisa.
Hi, and hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining. I want to say over your lunch hour, but I would love to know, and we are going to use the chat just a bit. Where are you joining from? I would love to know where you are in the world. Where are you joining from? Yeah, thanks, Susan. Welcome. I'm actually located in Des Moines, Iowa. We've got some Arizona, some Wisconsin, Seattle. I love that. Las Vegas, probably a little hot there. A few from my hometown, I see. Yeah, greetings from Wisconsin, Kansas, Michigan, Boston. Isn't it fun to imagine where we're all sitting? I always love to think about different people and what their normal day looks like. We've got Colorado. Hopefully, you're a little cooler than some of the other areas. Chicago. Welcome, welcome. We are going to kick it off. My style is highly interactive, so I'm going to talk to you like you're a good friend. You're going to probably, hopefully, feel like you're sitting at a coffee shop with me, almost going back and forth of like, yeah, I mean, I think so, or like, no, I don't think so. But my goal is really to give you some ideas to create more joy in your life and hopefully create a few mindset shifts for you. I'm going to tell you a story about how my husband and I were burnt out and kind of looking at each other like, is this it? Like, this is life. And how we really shifted a little bit of mindset and a little bit of our calendar. So we'll talk about how to actually get some joy on the calendar so that we could keep track of it much like a bank account. We have a metric in our family where we say joy is our job, and we're actually keeping track of it each month so that we have enough in our lives. You're going to get a number of different strategies that are rooted in some science. And so hopefully you'll walk away thinking, hmm, joy is my job. And then you'll have some ideas to actually go out and create it. The first thing, I want to share a statistic because I think this statistic, oftentimes people think talking about joy can feel a bit light and fluffy. And there was a study done at the University of Chicago back in 2023 where they found only 38% of Americans say they are very, very happy. And when I think about the other 62%, and then I think about how 2024 was kind of hard and how 2025 has been even harder. I just have to imagine that that 62% of people who are saying that they aren't happy, that number might be higher. And so I think it really does paint the picture of we have opportunity for more joy in our lives. But I don't necessarily think it's the type of joy that we live for on vacation, right? Where we think of like vacation joy. I think there's opportunities to sprinkle it in our day to day. And sometimes it's just a matter of looking at it from a different angle, almost like in a stadium of people. If you're in one seat versus another, you can see better. Things are better, front row than they are in the back row. So we're going to create some opportunity for you to sit front row and to create some joy in your life. Now, our joy journey started like this. I'm going to share this story because I think some of you might relate and also be like, oh, that's my story. Like that's how I've experienced life the last months or the last few years. And it really started, our joy journey started not because we were so excited and thought, let's have more. It really started because we were burnt out. We were sitting on the couch one night and I was exhausted, almost like teary eyed because I was so tired from work and kids and just life in general. And I looked at my husband and I said, I feel like I'm burnt out. I'm overscheduled and under fulfilled. And I feel like we chase a lot of things like our kids and the dishes and the laundry and all of our life responsibilities and our work responsibilities. And I want to chase something else. And he's a really sweet, quiet guy. And he looked at me and he's like what? Right? We're like sitting there in that moment of just, I'm kind of calling the like timeout. I think I've had enough. And I looked at him and I said, I just want to chase like fun and joy. And I want that to be like a bigger part of our lives because I have this feeling that if we keep pushing joy off, like, once the kids sleep through the night, then we're going to have joy. Or once this project is done, then we're going to have joy. Or like once we save enough money to buy a house, like then we're going to have joy. And so we were kind of pushing it off into the future. And I was like, I think if we get to the end of our lives, we're going to be like, wait, I think we were supposed to have joy back there. Like, I think that joy is for now. And so he was like, okay, well, how do we do it? And I laughed and I was like, I don't know. I'm kind of too tired to know the answer to this tonight. But give me a few days. Like, I want to come up with a way for us to like find ways to have more joy, more fun. And so he's like, okay. Well, I went to Home Depot and I bought like the biggest whiteboard that I could. And I brought it home. We were living in an apartment. And so I lugged it up the stairs and I got to our apartment and my husband's like, "What's this?" And I said, "Can you hang this in our bedroom? Like, I want you to hang it just right next to our bed. Just hang it right there." And he's like, "First off, I don't think people have whiteboards in their bedrooms." And I said, okay, hear me out. I know that people don't have whiteboards in their bedrooms, but we do. And I said, I just think that we should start tracking our joy, like coming up with things that we want to do, could do, hope to do. We're going to make a list and then we're going to start tracking it and checking it off. And so he's a really good guy and he hung the whiteboard and I think he thought I was nuts. But I said to him, sometimes the only time that we're together is when we fall asleep. And I want to add to this list, like right before we fall asleep, of like, oh, you know what we should do? And we should add this to the list. And then I said, I want to, wake up and I want it to be the first thing that I see in the morning because I feel like that's when I'm the most fresh. I haven't had anybody like in my ear, mom, mom, right? Or even at work, like another phone call, another meeting. And I think if we start to make a list of the things that bring us joy, I think we can start tracking it. Now, my husband and I at the time both worked in healthcare. And so if you ever go to the doctor, you know how they weigh you and you're like, no, I don't want to be weighed, but they're like, no, no, we need to weigh you. And then they take like, your blood pressure and they check your heart rate and all the things. And they basically keep track of it in the computer. And that's really where my mind went is like, if we can make a list and we can start tracking it and we can see how much you know, we've changed over time. I think that's how we do it. And that's what we did. We started with just a list, and the list had two or three things on it. And today I grabbed I'll show you here just a little bit later. These are our joy lists that now live on our refrigerator. Like these are the things that we come up with, and we have lists upon lists of things that over the years we have created. My kids now do it. I do this at work with my team, but I have a joy list and we do as a family, and we go out and we actually do these things. And that's my hope for you today is to really start thinking about like, what if I did start to create a joy list? And like, what if I made joy a metric in my life? We track joy like a bank account because we think it's that important. And then hopefully we can get you a list started. It's going to be quick. And I've got some resources for you near the end of the presentation, but that's my goal is for you to get that joy list started and for you to start thinking about where you're going to place joy in your life. Now, I want to blame the fact that I wasn't having joy on the fact that it was just the season of life, right? I was just busy. I had little kids, I had a spouse, we were climbing the corporate ladder, doing all of the things. But I think there was something just a little bit deeper at play. And when I think about, well, why is it that I find joy? I feel a lot of guilt when I go and I save time for joy, right? We put it on our joy list and we're like, we're gonna go do it. And then I'm like, you know what? Actually, I gotta do this first. Once we do this, then we can do that. And I think it's because I grew up in a household where my dad worked at a car dealership. My mom was a hotel housekeeper. So when it came to having extra money, We just didn't. Like we got by, I had everything that I needed, but there really wasn't a lot of extra money to be had. And I remember vividly my dad, you can imagine he's kind of a quiet and stoic guy, saying things like, in this family, we work hard. We work hard. And we might not have as much money as the next guy, but we know how to outwork them. And I remember thinking, and even to this day, I'll get into meetings or different, groups, and I'll kind of think to myself, I'll look to the left and I'll look to the right, and I'll be like, I might not be as smart as you. I might not have as much money as you. That's all right. I'll outwork you. And so I was programmed, right? Like at a very, very young age to really have core values that were things like contribution, like work hard. And so you can imagine that work hard Lisa, over the course of like 20 some years, forgot about joy. I just was thinking to myself, that doesn't make the top of the list. Fast forward, sitting on that couch, I was realizing like my teeter-totter had tipped way too far one way to where I was working and working and working, and I had forgotten to actually have fun or create joy in our lives. And I think that sometimes peeling back those layers of like, even though we've been trained and maybe raised to work hard, but maybe there is a place and a space for joy. And I jokingly tell my friends part of the reason why I create a joy list and I put it on my calendar, my joy activities, is because I want to get credit for it. And that little human who's like, I work hard, can show my worth by the joy that I've had, that I am working hard to make sure that I have joy. Maybe you're sitting there thinking, I don't know if it came from my childhood, or Lisa, I just am getting by and I need to get by. You're right. There's probably a reason that you're giving yourselves to create joy or to not create joy. And I always say that's like one of the first orders of business is to be like, A, is joy a part of my life currently, or am I just kind of dreaming towards it when we think about building that habit? Now, I also, around this time, so you can imagine we're hanging a whiteboard in our bedroom. We've decided we're going to make joy part of our lives. I've admitted that I was kind of like raised in a work hard family, which actually is a great thing until you work way too hard. The other thing I came across, and I want to share this tool with you. This is a strategy that I know that you can use this in many areas of your life. So this is not just a joy specific one. Stephen Covey, who's a famous author, in one of his books, he actually talks about the circle of control. And right around this time, I had attended a conference and heard about this tool. If you've heard about it, you're probably sitting there nodding, being like, yep, mm-hmm. If you've never heard about it, this is really what it says. It says that there are three different circles, the first circle being that middle circle. These are the only things you can control in your whole entire life. In the whole wide world, the only things you have 100 or 1000% control over are what you think, what you do, and what you say. It's really the reaction to whatever comes into your space. We had a house fire due to lightning a few years back, and I won't share the whole story, but the idea of it was we didn't choose the house fire due to lightning. It was 3 a.m. Lightning strikes our house. Thankfully, we exit quickly. Fire department comes. It was a very large fire. They were able to put it out, but I remember thinking like I did not pick this. Like this was not on the list of things to do today. It was actually July 11th. I'll never forget it because it was my wedding anniversary. So just like a few weeks back, we were reminiscing of like, yeah, remember a few years back on July 11th? But the idea of it is that we really couldn't control the fact that it happened, but we could control how we handled it. And so our kids, we ended up moving into an apartment. We rented furniture. And if you would have asked our kids around the time of the fire if they liked camping, they would have been like, we love it. But what you wouldn't have known is that it was apartment camping. We rented a couple of beds, a couch, a bureau, and we had a TV, and that was about it for about 4.5 months. So we decided that we were going to make joy our job in this apartment. Well, all of our stuff either went to be cleaned or got thrown away. And so that's really what that center circle says is like you get to own how you react to things, but you don't get to pick what happens to you. That second circle is the circle of influence. These are the things that we wish we could control. Like, what are you doing this weekend? Oh, I'm going to sit at the soccer field for 5 hours and it's going to be so hot. Yay. Right? Like, we wish we could pick that. Or even our productivity, like at work, we're like, once they get their part done, then I can do my part, but I can't do it until they're done with their part. We wish we could control our kids and our friends, right? Even where we work, we're like, we're interviewing for a job. Like, I hope they pick me. But ultimately, we just have an influence over it. We don't have full control. That third circle is the circle of concern, and these are the things that feel really far away, right? Traffic, the media, war, government policy, past decisions. We're like, man, if I could go back and do that again, right? I always say these are the things that you want to have on your radar and you want to know about, but they're going to feel farther and harder to control. And I think that when I was thinking about my life and thinking, well, my kids I don't get to control the fact that they don't sleep and I have a busy job, can't really control that. Well, I, have a very, busy home life of all these things. I only can control how I react to it. And it was kind of this combination of like, I want more, I'm a little burnt out, and I guess the only one to create more joy in my life is me. That's really what spurred this idea of making joy our job. And so after a few years, I wrote the book called Joy is My Job. It's on Amazon, it's cheap. It really just outlines, okay, how did we do it? So you decided to make joy your job, and then what? And I'd like for us to just spend just a minute or two thinking about like what components go into it, and then we're going to talk about how you go after it. So this is an example. I know the ones that I held up, you couldn't really read them, but this is my daughter's first joy calendar. So you can see, I was like, okay, guys, we're going to make a joy list, and we gave them a piece of paper. And I always say, like, if you can't come up with joy ideas, but you have a kid in your life, whether it's like your kid or your friend's kid, or like maybe you have a grandchild, ask them what they would like to do for fun or for joy. And they'll be able to, like, literally, she was like, movie night, paint by sticker, make donut balls, tie dye, McDonald's play place. Like, who doesn't want to go there? And then the idea of it was we then started to give ourselves some challenges where we actually gave ourselves like a mission. And here in a minute, I'm going to give you some missions that you can go back. And those missions are actually going to feed your joy list. We're going to create a list of things like homework to go and do in your life. And then we actually put those on the calendar. And once a month, my husband and I sit down, usually with a drink, and we look at our joy calendar and we literally almost like I imagine it like in a British accent to where we're like, do we have enough? Should we add some? Right? And we just really create a list of things that would bring us joy. And then we actually put them on the calendar. And we look for like tiny spaces and places to put these things. Now, as I'm talking, you might be sitting there being like, oh, Lisa, that is so cute. I don't have time for that. Or Lisa, do you know how much money joy takes? Right? Like our mind, our subconscious mind is probably sitting there giving you all of the reasons of the things of reasons why you can't have joy. And I want you to think for just a minute, and we're going to put these in the chat, partially to commiserate together, but partially to be thinking about what are we telling ourselves? So give me a sec. I'm going to put a divider in the chat. And I want you to put in there what gets in the way of you having joy? If you're hearing me talk and you're thinking, Lisa, I don't have time. Like, I want you to put that. Like, what are the very high level categories of like, it's time, it's money, it's stress? Like, I am not creative. What are the things that you find yourself saying of like, well, I can't have joy because of X? Like, what are some of those things that you feel, yep, money, I have to work hard. It's like more work, isn't it? It's like adding one more to the place. What's realistic? I love that. Yeah, conflicting priorities. Shelly, work. Yep. Stress and being overwhelmed, exactly. Commitments, time and money. Yeah, money, stress, work, lack of energy, right? Sometimes we're just like, I can't. Yeah, coordinating schedules. No one gave me permission. Sue, we're going to talk about that here in a minute. Yeah, you haven't earned it. I sometimes feel that same way. Or I think the world's going to fall of like, oh, right? Health, grief, stress, right? It requires organization and totally worth it. Yeah, like there is a component to like having to organize this. And I want you to be thinking about, well, what if I could say to myself, it's okay if maybe you have 20 sheets of paper, a whiteboard, and this is where your joy list lives, right? Like for me, I'm kind of like, it could look cute, but it doesn't. right? Yeah, Maureen, I love that. I don't know what will bring me joy right now. I'm working on it. Sometimes when we haven't had joy in quite a while, we sit there and think like, oh yeah, joy. I had that once. But what did what did I actually do for joy? There are so many things that get in the way of our joy, whether it's deadlines or time, even email. I catch myself being like, okay, one more email. I gotta get one more email done, and then I can have joy. But here's the thing. I think that joy really comes down to a couple of things. It requires these three things. Desire, you have to want it. I once had a woman at a presentation raise her hand and say, I think I have enough joy. Thanks. And I was like, she's right. If you don't want it in this season of your life, don't have it. If you've got enough, perfect. But if you're sitting there thinking, like, how do I get what she's having or they're having? Like, I'll take that. We're going to talk about desire, permission, giving yourself permission to say you can have joy. That was one of the biggest things for me is that I had been in this like childhood of like work hard, right? And so no one ever gave me permission to like play hard. And I really had to kind of come to that conclusion of like, well, what if I could do both? Like what if I could work hard and play hard? And that was really where my belief started to shift. And I really truly believe, and you can borrow my beliefs until you come up with something that really resonates with you. But I really believe that you can be more than one thing at once. You can be joyful and maybe a little stressed. You can have $0 and have a heck of a good time. Like you can have no money, right? And still create the most elaborate joy moment ever. And the second belief is that it's possible. If you catch yourself saying, well, I don't have time and I'm not going to be able to do it, like you're right. And so you really do have to think, well, what if I could squeeze it in? Like I'm going to have a really busy schedule and I'm going to squeeze it in. And that's what we're going to do. I want to give you a couple of joy challenges. So in the middle, I'm going to give you a couple challenges and I'm going to put some of these in the chat. And then I want you to start making a list off to the side. Like if you've got a post-it note, maybe it's a phone, maybe it's somewhere on your computer. And this is going to start your first official joy list. Okay, so you're going to start a list of things that would bring you joy. And I'm going to give you a challenge. So it's going to make sense here in a minute. And I'm going to ask you to write down first a category. So for example, your first challenge is going to be a 1 hour, and I'm just going to put them in the chat so you can see them. It's going to be a 1 hour challenge. Now, I'm going to give you a couple of examples of what we do in our family for a 1 hour challenge. Okay. Now, my husband and I, we now have middle school aged kids. We do not have time to go on a date, right? Like, who has time for that? And so, what we do is oftentimes it's usually like Wednesday afternoons because we both work weird schedules. And from 3 to 4 p.m., our kids will walk in from school. We'll say to them, would you guys like technology and a snack? And they say, yeah. And then we say, okay, great. Mom and dad are going on a date. We'll be back in 1 hour. And we literally go on a date for 1 hour. We have a list of coffee shops printed off in our metro area. And we literally go to the list and we're like, boop, we're going to go here. We get in the car, we drive to the coffee shop, we order our coffee. Usually we stand there for about 10-15 minutes and then we drive home. And I think to myself, I had so much joy. It was so great. Now, if you're sitting there thinking, Lisa, I don't have time for that, great, 15 minutes. Here's what I do in 15 minutes. My friend and I, we have this unwritten rule where she'll call me and she'll be like, hey, what are you doing? And I'll be like, I'm doing the dishes, I'm laundry, whatever it is. And she'll say, do you got 15? And I'll say, yeah, I got 15. She'll be like, all right, I'll be there in 5 minutes. I literally 5 minutes later meet her in the driveway with a LaCroix, like a sparkling water. I hand her one. We stand there for 15 minutes. We chit chat. And then she's like, all right, go team, we gotta go. And we're back to our real lives. Joy can be teeny, eensy, beatsy, like tiny little things that bring you joy. We have a pond in our neighborhood. It takes me 12 minutes to walk around. So oftentimes I will work myself to death at my computer, right? I'm like, I'm going to take 12 minutes. I'm going to walk around this pond. And even the guilt, sometimes I'm like, I can do it in 10, right? I'm around that pond and I'm back to my desk. What are you going to do in your 1 hour joy challenge? And if you have to skinny it down because you only got 15, that's great too. Your second joy challenge is going to be a night in or a night out. So that's your category. And you're going to list out on your sheet a couple of things that you would do for a night in or a night out. Oftentimes, we have a cupboard full of fancy glasses. They were Goodwill glasses. They were super cheap. They're like blue and pink, and they're all different sizes. And literally, sometimes my daughter will say, "It's a fancy meal." And she pulls out the glasses. What are you doing to do something fun on a night in, whether it's cards or Uno or a fun meal? Oftentimes I'll say, give it a theme, or a night out. A night out. What would be something that you would do on a night in or a night out? Because here's the thing, what's going to happen is you're going to be like, I don't have time. And then all of a sudden, a random Friday night comes and you look at your spouse and you're like, should we go out to dinner? And they're like, yeah, maybe. And then you're like, where should we go? And they're like, I don't know. Where do you want to go? I don't know. Where do you want to go? And they're like, I don't know. And then you waste way more time trying to come up with what you would do. Your joy list is like at the ready. And you're like, you know what? We said we would love to have Italian. Should we try the new Italian place? Part of it is just being ready for when it occurs. So your second joy challenge is night in and night out. Yeah. And I love that. Norma, yeah, actually sleeping the appropriate amount of time for your body and brain. Joy can be sleep. We're taking a night in, we're having dinner at 4, and we're going to bed at 7:30. Absolutely. Like joy can look very different for each person. Now I've got two more joy challenges. The next one is called someone else's joy. It's going to be your goal to figure out whose joy you can be a part of. Once a month, my husband and I, we make the other person come into our joy. So I watch a football game, and my whole entire job, because I don't really care for football other than going to it and watching it live, is he can tell me, did you see that guy run 27 yards in 3.7 seconds? Like, my job is literally to nod and smile and be in his joy. One of my joy, I drug him to a Bridgerton ball where we got dressed up with our friends and we dressed in fancy things and he had a top hat and he's like, I don't like Bridgerton. I'm like, that's all right. And all he had to do was be in my joy. And all night long, he was asking me, lady, sweet lady, what can I do for you? What can you do to get into someone else's joy? You'll be shocked that all of a sudden you're in their joy and all your job is to do is enjoy it. And then you're like, geez, I'm kind of enjoying this. What can you do to get in someone else's joy? Now, the last joy challenge is called crappy to happy. Okay, crappy to happy, because sometimes life gives us things that we don't want to do, right? Like I married my husband, we moved in together, and he's like, our laundry comes out of the dryer, and he's like, well, aren't we going to match our socks and put one sock inside of another sock? How many of you, I'm going to put this in the chat, how many of you are a matcher? Like you match your socks. When they come out of the dryer, you match them. You put sock inside of sock. Are you a sock matcher? Cindy's like, I match socks. Yeah, all these people do. Now, I grew up, we didn't have a lot of money. We only had white socks. So why in the world would I spend, yeah, Julie, why would I spend all that time matching socks? I realized like months into my marriage that I was like, this is not going away. He really feels like compassion, like passionate about the sock matching thing. And I was like, all right, crappy to happy, right? There are unglamorous things in our lives that we do and we don't really want to, but we do them anyway. And my kids know this. I say to them, now that they're a little bit older, I can use the word, but I used to say, guys, sometimes we do things we don't want, but we can still make it joyful. We can have fun. When we match socks, we call it a sock party. And we actually, my kids, I yell up the stairs and I'm like, sock party. And they know what that means, that we're going to probably listen to music. Maybe we're going to order pizza. Maybe we're going to throw the socks over the banister and make them like snow, like rain down. And it's going to be fun when we have to go and find them. But what are you doing to take crappy to happy? Whether it's laundry, dishes, Excel spreadsheets, things that you're gonna do anyway, both at work and at home. And what if you said to yourself, I'm gonna add a little joy before, during, or after? Crappy to happy. Now, our time, can you believe it? It's up. It is so up. We have just started to scratch the surface of creating joy. But I hope that if anything, that your brain said to itself, all right, joy is my job. I'm not going to wait for it. I'm going to give myself permission. and I'm going to get out there and do it. Now, a lot of the things that I showed you, I actually have a kit for you to grab. I won't spam you. It literally is just ideas, a calendar, a crappy to happy worksheet that gives you some examples. Joy is your job. I wish you all the luck in creating joy, and I want to hear about it. So if you download this, I'll get your email, and then you can send me lots of ideas. Okay, Maddie, what did I miss?
Thank you so much. Also, one of the things that I absolutely love doing, and I do it quarterly, is I play like hooky. And I actually have it like already scheduled out and like put in the calendar, so it's not like I just wake up. But I love
Yeah.
taking Tuesdays off, because I then get 2 Fridays in the work week, and I love Friday night, like that sensation of like that's like a next couple day problem. And so I work Monday and then I already know I have Tuesday off and like I've typically like invited a friend to take it off with me. And then we like go to like a coffee shop or a place that's typically too crowded to go on the weekend because like the wait is always so long. That's how we start a day and then we always walk around a different neighborhood. And then typically I just like sit in my house quiet and like read like that book that I haven't gotten around to and it's just like a total hooky day.
Yeah.
And so Tuesday's like my favorite day to take off just for like a fill up the cup um attitude check and then I just have another Friday that week. Like then there's Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So that's my little
I
tip.
love it. And
Um
Maddie, one question I saw in the chat,
yes.
I can get you the QR code and a link. Would you be able to send that out like to anybody that came so that they would be able to grab those resources? Someone asked in the chat, they're like, I'm on my phone, so I can't scan it. So if I get that to you, can we get that back out to folks after the
Yes.
presentation?
I believe so. It will
Okay.
be sent through Eventbrite. If not, if it doesn't come through in the post email, you can email DreamBank and I will forward
Perfect.
it to you. I'll just like work on the
We'll figure
attachment.
that out.
But yes, you
Yeah.
can email DreamBank. And then one of the other things too that is coming up, we have a special event, Raising Little Dreamers with Dr. Eliza Pressman. And that event is up on our website. And I'm really looking forward to it. And so I just invite you, anyone that is in kind of that child raising era, I am in that myself. I encourage you to sign up and join me August 5th to take notes. And so we can sprinkle in maybe some joy in maybe the terrible twos or teenage years. I don't know. And so thank you all so much. And until next time, friends.
Yeah, joy
Bye.
is your job.